coming up next.
When you're tolerating a lot of pain or unacceptable behavior, what you're doing is you're committed to that hope, which we'll get into, that hope of change, that delusion that the reality will not be this way in a week or a year from now, and that you're just going to hold on till it gets better. It's sort of not the reality that it is, but the commitment is to that other person and to this like delusional future, this hypothetical future. But when you can change that and go from the commitment to the other person and the hope in the future to the commitment to yourself, to what you're worth, to your love, to your dreams happening, and you stay present in the reality of what is, that's how the relationship will actually shift. Because if you're not committed to yourself, you're going to go back to him and be like, well, you just need to change. You just have to get clean. But really, we have to see ourselves as dirty also if we are engaged in such a rat race of unhealthiness.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction, your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation, and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Gioia, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter. A woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. Welcome to Faith Over Addiction. I have asked Chaya Garcia to come back and join us. She had such powerful things to say in her last podcast, and you can grab that over on the YouTube channel or on any place you listen to podcasts on Faith Over Addiction. So Faith Over Addiction is focused on bringing women back to their identity in Christ, increasing their hope, letting them settle back into who they know they are and that they are enough, so that not only will they be loving for themselves, but they'll be able to be loving for their families. And we got really deep last time into, I'm going to let Chaya explain the high and low tolerance for pain and which way it should be, because I think when you are loving someone with addiction, you've got it all backwards. So if you want to know more about Chaya, go to the previous episode, but we're going to talk specifically about this high and low tolerance for pain, and then move on to something that's always in front of me is toxic hope and what that looks like. So, give us a little more about the low and high tolerance and how we should be thinking about it.
I love it. So thank you so much, Tanya, for having me back. It is always a pleasure to speak about this as we are all here to heal. So let's do this together. So, hey guys, my name is Chaya Garcia. If you want to find me, if you want any relationship help, go to Epic Love Expert on the socials and send me a DM. And just to get into this level of pain, so you really want to just be super aware and assessing where your pain is coming from so that you can know A, how to avoid it, and B, how to prevent it. So you want to really have a very high tolerance of pain for yourself in the sense that pain doesn't scare you, right? Like if it's painful to start waking up early and go to the gym, but you know it's going to give you massive rewards and be proud of yourself and fuel your goals and have benefit rewards, don't be afraid of waking up early or afraid of waking up before the sun or the pain. Like, know that you can handle pain. So, for you to yourself, have a high tolerance for you to create pain in small, boundary filled time frames so that you can not have pain for the long run. So basically, if you're out of weight, out of shape forever, you can have pain for like a very long period of time because you're not in optimal health. But to start waking up early and going to the gym so it's going to be a higher level of pain, but to reduce pain longer for the long run. So also with addicts and also with our relationships, if they are the ones that are causing the sufferance, you want to have a very low tolerance for that. You want to be like, no, you can't call me a name. No, you can't just show up stoned or drunk and not be available for me. Like, I don't accept that. Like, I have a very low tolerance of pain that you're going to inflict upon me and cause suffering in my life. That's not acceptable. For me to then walk away from you, which is going to be painful because I love you and I've gotten close to you, I can handle that pain that I self impose so that I don't have to handle and deal with a lot of pain for a long period of time. Did, do you got that?
Yes, you're setting it up. So we talk about this in boundaries, but you've set it up in a way that makes it really clear of I'm not tolerating the name calling. I'm not tolerating you saying you're going to be here and then not showing up. I'm not tolerating money being taken from joint accounts or things being taken from the house or whatever. I'm not going to tolerate that. And then as we look under God's laws, I'm not going to tolerate treating myself like I'm not enough.
Yes.
So if you're going to treat me that way, I'm not going to treat me that way, and we're going to have some confusion in there. So what happens when the wife, the girlfriend, the mom says, "Okay, I have been tolerating this and I'm not going to tolerate it." What happens in the relationship? What's the shift?
Yeah. I mean, the shift really is her commitment to herself. Because when you're tolerating a lot of pain or unacceptable behavior, what you're doing is you're committed to that hope, which we'll get into, that hope of change, that delusion that the reality will not be this way in a week or a year from now, and that you're just going to hold on till it gets better. It's sort of not the reality that it is, but the commitment is to that other person and to this like delusional future, this hypothetical future. But when you can change that and go from the commitment to the other person and the hope in the future to the commitment to yourself, to what you're worth, to your love, to your dreams happening, and you stay present in the reality of what is, that's how the relationship will actually shift. Because if you're not committed to yourself, you're going to go back to him and be like, well, you just need to change. You just have to get clean. But really, we have to see ourselves as dirty also if we are engaged in such a rat race of unhealthiness.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's where I was going to go is it feels like when you say, okay, stop tolerating what they are what's unacceptable. And each person's unacceptable is different, but there are some baselines, right? Physical violence, name calling, stealing, cheating, all those types of things. There are some baselines that you can go back to that very baseline and say, this is not acceptable. And if you're having a hard time figuring out what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, get with Chaya. She will help you make a list come into reality, because we all need that person who says, okay, you've been in the boiling water for a long time. What does that look like? Why is it that by tolerating that behavior, we think we're doing it out of love, we're actually making the situation worse?
Because you know what I had to learn, which was like a big wake up call for me, was that my love, what I designed as love, what I called love, what I thought was so loving and so patient and so, it was actually just a form of control. And that was a big, slap in the face to me when I started going to program. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm so loving and I'm so helpful. And I'm just trying to help him get clean. And I'm just going to love him. And I'm going to love him so much. He's going to get better. And I realized, slash learned, slash was gently guided to that was actually not love. I had a very diluted sense of love. My ideas of love were very distorted. And it was actually just a form of control. I didn't have to look at myself, my dirty, my addictions, my unhealthiness, if I can just focus on his addiction and his unhealthy behavior. And if I can just love him so much that I want him to be better and change, then I didn't have to look at what I needed to change and where I needed to get better. So when you're focused on loving someone, but the real love means that they have to change their behavior, who they are, that's not love. That's a form of control. And I was actually just really controlling with the guise of love.
And when you're doing that on the outside, you've alluded to it already. What are you not doing on the inside?
Yeah, taking full responsibility. Right?
Well,
There was,
and you're also saying I'm not enough. I
yeah.
can't love myself until you get better. So as you I talk about it in the way of, we're loving the potential
Yes.
rather than loving what is in ourselves and in the other person. We talked about this last time, but that shift to loving yourself, a lot of people can't make that shift, or they choose not to make that shift. What do you see with the women you work with who are really stuck not making that shift?
The truth is, it really is an addiction. We become addicted to the control and the love and the hope and the potential. And so, first of all, y'all just need to give yourself a little bit of credit. All the women who are listening, like, it's not your fault. You've been in a sick game of a push and a pull. He's going to change a little bit. You have so much hope. It really looks like it's going to be better. But then his behavior goes back to what it was, and you're like, man, this really isn't acceptable. And then you push and you pull. Like, we are human beings, and our brains are very much able to be patterned into addiction, which is essentially a pull and a push, a yes and a no. It's going to work out. Sorry, honey, it's not anymore. But definitely yes in the future, but maybe not. And it's just like, oh, okay, so which one is it? And until we realize that we have to lower that tolerance of pain for other people, then it's just too easy to get into this game. So for the women listening, when you learn to focus on yourself and only on yourself, you can hear and see the truth of the situation so much more accurately. When you're trying to bring him into your world, then you're just constantly, your focus is out of focus, and it's hard to decipher what's really going to be right for you.
Kaya, how do I know when I'm doing this? How do I know when I've gotten in this power struggle and we've just locked horns? If this is familiar and normal for me, how do I know?
Yeah, serenity. Serenity is what you're not going to be feeling when you've locked horns. Okay. You're still going to have highs and lows, highs and lows. And my first Sunday program was like Serenity Sundays. And it was like, oh, you'll know when you're not locked in those horns, when you're playing these games, when you are serene. And it was like, oh, snap. There's a whole world out there where you can just live a calm life, like absolutely no drama. Like just things are flowing. And that's really the truth because now I live it. I did my work. I married a really healthy, sober, stable man, and it is serene. My marriage is serene. So you'll know when when you're locked in those horns, when you're not calm, when you can't breathe, when you're always waiting for him to do the next thing or for you to see what's going to happen or for you to be like, "Oh, I have to manage this situation or me or him or what's going to happen." You're always like waiting for that next shoe to drop and you're always just a little bit anxious of the future behavior because your life isn't predictable and serene. So if you're not calm, then that's a really good indicator of what's going on in your life and relationships.
So I've had this young woman say to me, and it really set me back on my heels. We were talking about the gentleman she was dating versus some other folks she had dated in the past, and she said it out loud. She said there's just not enough excitement and drama in this relationship. What is she really setting herself up for?
So when people say that there's not enough excitement and drama, they're still active addicts. So for all the people listening, there's two different types of addicts. There's the codependents who are addicted to controlling their emotions and their connection with God through the highs and lows of unpredictable behavior in men or relationships or love. And then there is the addict, the typical addict who's addicted to substances and they manage their emotions, their highs and lows, how safe they feel in this world and with God through substances. It's the same thing, just one's with people and relationships and love, and one's with substances. So she's still in active addiction, which means she can't see how the men are hurting her. She's still willing to get hurt. And until you commit to yourself and you say you're done getting hurt, you want to get hurt. That's what makes you feel alive, just like the addict. Like he goes high, he goes down, but that's what makes him feel alive and safe. That's his active, addiction, which he knows isn't the best, but it's what fuels him. He gets excited to do drugs. So a codependent will get excited to be with a man who she knows probably won't commit to her, but will bring a lot of highs and lows. She's still in the active state. You have to get a little bit more vulnerable and real and honest with yourself of how out of control you are. Like step one is my life's unmanageable, right? Like when you go to
Sure.
program, step one is it's unmanageable. But if she hasn't even gotten to step one where she doesn't see how the excitement of these men is causing her also a lot of pain and abandonment and suffering, then it's hard to, get her to that next phase. But at some point, she'll have enough pain where she'll be like, maybe I need to relook at this.
Well, and what I've seen and what I've experienced is the pattern repeats. And so at some point you are, sitting in your bed, sitting on your couch, hugging your dog, doing whatever, going, why am I experiencing this again? And what I've come to think through is that instead of loving the person that is, I'm seeing all the potential, which is not necessarily a bad thing until that's the only thing. So, how do you help your clients work through that? But he's a good guy, but he's a loving dad, but he does this. How do you help them work through that toxic hope potential piece?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So, first of all, I just redefine it. So, I made an acronym for HOPE, holding onto personal elevation. And then the P is the one that gets highlighted. You're holding on to personal elevation, that you get better, that you want more, that you feel like you deserve better, that you feel like you can elevate to a next level where this type of life isn't your life. So one is we redefine it. The other thing is just remembering that until you're grounded in reality, then you're still in active addiction. So first just to get back to that grounded in reality. They're a good guy, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for a stable guy. You're looking for a serene life. You're looking for you. You're looking for someone to help fulfill your purpose. So a lot of times when I work with women who are dating, they're like, but he's such a nice guy, but this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you're not looking for a nice guy. You're looking for your guy. You're looking for your soulmate. And a lot of that means you have to be physically attracted, spiritually attracted, um, and that there's a lot of stability and predictability in that relationship so that you can be grounded in reality for a healthy, sustainable life.
So back to this young woman, if I had said you're
Yeah.
looking for a stable, predictable, serene, she'd be like, Ew, that is not what I want.
Yes, and then you have to fast forward. So you can be like, okay, so you want someone who's going to leave you in a year, right? Like you can just go back. So like the last guy who was so exciting to you, how did that end? You can always just go back to reality. The last guy who was so exciting, how did that end? Oh, he left me to go snort coke, or oh, he just wasn't available, or he cheated on me, or he just go back to the reality. If you can remind her of her pain points, it can bring her back down. Like I get you want the excitement, but that's just a sign that you're still depressed because it's bringing you out of your depression. What are you so angry about? What are you still pissed about? What are you still sad about? Like, screw the guy, right? That's just a reflection of where you're at. Like, it's not even about him, it's about you. Like, what are you still upset about in life? Like, what are you still so angry about? Because the reason that people attract addicts or substances is because they're in a state of depression, kind of helps them get out of it, you know?
Mhm.
So for women, it's the same thing. They have immense amount of hurt, pain, and trauma that just hasn't been identified, and
Mhm.
it's really scary to look at and feel. So the man serves as a source of just not paying attention and getting that out of that depression. So screw the guy, go back to her. What the heck are you so angry about or hurt about, or what's still bothering you? And when you start opening that up, you'll see that he was just a band-aid for it, but always focus on the reality of the situation where she's really like what she's still hurting on actively.
How are you making it safe to hold on to my personal elevation, especially when, as a woman, I'm taught to take care of everybody else but me?
Yes, it's a redefining of what's important. And women are not meant to be martyrs. Women are not meant to be polite. One of the great things when I was dating and guys would come up to me and like, "So, what's your name? Where are you from?" And I would literally just respond, "I have no interest in having this conversation with you." And either they would walk away or I would walk away. And I wasn't mean. I was just like, "I have no interest in this conversation." Because anyone who's going to walk up to you that way and start that type of energy was not going to be the right one for me. But I didn't care what other people thought of me. So when you say, how do you go back to holding on to personal innovation when you're taught to take care of others, just switch it. I am no longer another person's caretaker. My identity in this moment, I have changed my identity and my decision of how I show up in the world. And I'm no longer showing up as a martyr for someone else's, elevation and healing. It's mine. I want my potential to be fulfilled. I want my life to be living my purpose. I don't want to live someone else's life. I want to live my life. So you give yourself a new identity that is no longer attached to the acceptance of suffering.
Okay. So you give yourself a new identity that's not attached to the identity of suffering. That's huge. What is it that you do? So this identity has been baked in. This is who I think I am. And we know from the research, personality is not permanent. We can change. When do I look at my potential versus his potential and I say the complete sentence of no?
At what point? Like, is this when you first met him? Are you married to him? Like, when do you say no to this potential? I mean, it's different when you're married, when you just meet him and he's not what you want, walk away in a second. If you're married and he's not what you want, I mean, you want to just see how long has this been going on? Is this a behavior that's gonna change or not? Is he an active addict or not? If he's in active addiction and he's not getting therapy, walk away now. If you have a bunch of kids together, that's a tricky one, but more so than not, leave, because if you can show your kids how to walk away from abusive relationships, you'll give them the greatest gift of power and health that you ever could. And you just can't wait for someone else to heal. It's just not your job. And if you are married, even with kids, if you really walk away, you'll give them a space to see what they've lost. And at that point, they will still continue to be an addict or heal. But they won't even get to that point where they feel the reality of the need to heal if you're still very much playing the game that got them there in the first place.
So my healing becomes paramount. What if I stay and move through the healing process?
Then you just have to do it alone. You can't expect him to come along with you if he doesn't want to. Like you literally have to detach completely with love, not detach with anger. Like, wow, he's such an a-hole. He's still doing his drugs and I'm just trying to like get healthy. And can't he just see that I'm trying to get healthy? And can't he get healthy for me and the kids? That's called anger. And anger is an attaching emotion. When you're angry with someone, you're super attached to them and attached to whatever they've done that's still causing, but you're attached, right? And if someone's really causing you a lot of anger, you want to detach. And the only way you can do that is with love and compassion. Like your soul, your journey, my soul, my journey. I'm so sorry you're suffering, but that's just not my space to try to heal it. I'm not God or you. And I'm going to work with God and the way I work with it and myself and focus on myself. So if you're going to stay, you really have to detach and detach with love and find a support group that's going to help you stay detached with love because it's just going to be too easy to get triggered. It's just too already a unhealthy dynamic that it's very likely you're going to get triggered and go back to unhealthy behaviors of wanting to control and then think it's love. So you need also that support group like program.
So by staying there and loving the potential, who am I harming?
You and only you. And if you have kids, your kids too, because they'll see you in a diluted state. Um, but you're hurting yourself because, again, like you're here to live your life. You're here to love you. Like I needed to learn how to love myself and how disgusted I was that he couldn't love me. I had to get to the point where, as much as he was loving and affectionate and sweet and spiritual and kind, he also couldn't love me because he couldn't love himself. And I had to get to a point where anger was a healthy emotion, where disgust was a part of my healing. And I learned that in program that if you're not feeling enough disgust and anger, but like, it's okay, it's going to work out. Like, he'll get through it, we'll get through it. It's okay. I'm still so grateful. Like, if you're in I'm so grateful phase, thank God I'm so grateful. You haven't even entered the healing phase. The healing phase has like, holy crap, like, oh my God, I haven't been loved for this long. That is disgusting. I am angry. Like, I chose someone who can never love me. Like, that's bothersome. You know, once you
Right.
feel your feelings more accurately, then you can even go into that healing phase of like, okay, how do I shift and change?
So talk us through the healthy, I would say kind of the anger fire that's cleansing. It's a cleansing anger fire. It's not outwardly directed, if I'm hearing you correctly. It's a clarity within yourself of, hey, this is what I need and I have done without. So how do you begin to clarify that?
Yeah, I mean, it's for you. You're not angry at them for being who you didn't want them to be. You're more just angry at the situation of how could I have allowed this? How could I have never thought I was lovable enough that this was what I allowed or attracted?
Mm-hmm.
And that the behavior where they were just passed out or they were stoned or they were unavailable or they did cheat on whatever their addiction is, right? And how the behavior plays out. Like you have to become angry at that behavior, not at the person, not at the
Mm-hmm.
person, at the
Mm-hmm.
behavior. And think, you know what? Getting high and just passing out or watching pornography or not being available for me or not showing up or not being available or neglecting me, like that's a form of abuse. You know, like when you see a kid, like, there's two sides to the abuse. One is that they're being hit, and the other one is they're not being fed or clothed or nurtured, and that's also a form of abuse. Neglect is a form of abuse. So you got to get angry at the fact that you have abuse in your life, and that's not an acceptable thing you want to experience anymore, and it wasn't okay.
And as you're looking at this, I keep thinking in Christ we're convicted but not condemned. And so if you're married to somebody who is a believer, the conviction has it's something you said earlier that really is helpful of the addiction is still active for you and it's still active for them. So both of you are struggling, not finding your true identity, not backing up into the strength of God, not backing up into, I was created for a purpose. I was created to be loved. I was created to be cared about. And I talk about this quite often, is by staying in the enabling part of the relationship, you're not allowing God to work in their life nor in your life. You're actually playing God. And that to me is part of the biggest part of toxic hope. That's why I wrote it down, holding on to personal elevation, because God is never putting his thumb on you saying you can only come this far and you can't come any further. So as you're looking at this, to me, we're back to that. I'm not willing to tolerate you causing me all of this pain. Now, that can be taken to an obnoxious level, but how do you get to what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, where that righteous anger comes in, where you clean the inside of the cup?
Yeah, I really don't think there's like that much acceptable behavior that's unacceptable. Meaning like I think we're supposed to have a very, very, very low tolerance for unacceptable behavior. Like from program, like you don't accept unacceptable behavior. So unacceptable behavior would be getting high. For this talk, unacceptable behavior would be watching pornography, would be looking at other women in the street, would be not having high moral standards, not having high ethics, not being communicative, not being able to financially provide. A lot of women who are in these unhealthy relationships are the providers and they are picking up all this slack. That's not that's not healthy. If he can't provide, if he can't carry at least half the weight of the chores or the kids or the emotions or the bills, like that's unacceptable. A man in a woman's life is supposed to be an elevator, like, and to enhance it, right? When we have one healthy person plus another healthy person equals a lot of healthiness, and it's so great and it's functional. But, if he's not functional, if there's dysfunction, there's really not a lot of acceptable parts to that. You know, there really is supposed to be a very low bar of unhealthy behavior in your life because you need a lot of you. You need to learn, you need to take care of your body and eat well and pray and also work out and also, make sure you're drinking enough. And if you have kids, I mean, there's a whole nother slew of things that you need to take care of. Just being taking care of yourself is so much. You can't really you're not meant to handle the suffering of someone else to decrease your life you're living on this earth.
What would you say? So we've got the young woman who says there's not enough drama. We've got the older married person who says, but I will be lonely. I will be left alone. I will be, cut off if I don't stay and enable and make this work. What would you say to that person?
I have never actually heard someone say, I'll be lonely. I always heard them say, well, he'll be lonely, or he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have family, or no, there's no one else to take care of him, or his mom and dad already passed and there's no one else but me, or, the kids are all grown and gone and I'm the only one here to help him out. Like, I've never really heard about it's almost always about him. Um, but if someone would say, I'll be lonely, I mean, then, they probably haven't done the work on how to be there with for themselves. So, like having alone time with yourself means you're happy to be in your own company. Like you enjoy your own company. You enjoy your thoughts. You enjoy the way you talk to yourself inside your head and sometimes outside when no one's listening. You're a friendly, loving, positive force in your life and you enjoy that alone time to get to hear your own thoughts and process your feelings and do your fun activities. So if she said, I'd be lonely without him, I'd say, um, I hear you. And so, how do you think you can become a really loving friend to yourself? Where when no one's around you, whether he's alive or in heaven, you are great company to you. Like, what kind of work would that look like?
Woohoo! I hope there's a lot of women listening. I've experienced that with some of my clients of, I'm 50. I don't want to live the rest of my life alone. I'm willing to do this. Who would want me now? And to hear you say that, you're backing up back into that piece of how do I love myself well enough? One, that I won't tolerate this behavior and I like being with me, right? We run to all these other things. We create all other relationships because this is scary. How do you help your clients walk through the scary of actually loving themselves?
I mean, life is full of fear. Like my clients are always like, but I'm afraid and it's painful. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of pain staying the same. There's a lot of pain in no growth, in 5 years from now, not having a lot of money, not having a successful relationship, not having a thriving business, being physically unhealthy. There's going to be a lot of pain. And then there's also pain in growth, in learning how to scale a multi-million dollar business, in working on a beautiful marriage and creating things that are new and loving for each other. And there's pain in figuring out like how to grow. Growth is there's pain in growth and there's pain in stagnation, but the stagnation causes so much more surrounding illnesses and no rewards and a very lonely, unhappy life. And then the pain of growth, the pain of loving yourself, the pain of change, the pain of getting close to your dark spot so that you can add some light there is painful. But then you get so many more rewards, and it's still a shorter time of pain for a lot more pleasure that has now space to come in.
So you're telling me I'm going to be in pain either way. I just get to pick which one I want to do and which one is going to give me. Well, you're basically saying stop living in the fantasy and do the work to get to the real life that you want. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, because the pain of staying stagnant is more painful than the pain of growth, but pain's still there. So you have to just be comfortable in pain and just know it's going to pass and that you're still going to try to achieve your goals. Because if you get to your deathbed and you've been in pain, but you've had no growth, you haven't achieved your goals, you've been in a crappy relationship, you don't have a lot of money, and you're in physical pain because you didn't work on yourself and now you have all these physical ailments, like that's a lot worse of a life to walk down than the pain of getting to know yourself and to heal your wounds and to forgive the people that hurt you. And even though that's uncomfortable, you get so much more out of it. You have so much more fulfillment and life potential that comes from that than, dying slowly because you've been afraid of pain.
It's dying the death before the body dies.
Yeah, a
Because
lot
you
of people.
shut down system after system after system so you can stay in a relationship that has deteriorated to the point where if you don't shut down the systems, you can't stay. Am I on target there?
Yeah, 100%. So many women are living very painful, half alive lives while they're alive. And they've become accustomed to not feeling alive or giggling or seeing the beauty in the world. They've become accustomed to a heaviness and a sadness and a nervousness and an anxiousness. Um, but all those things take away from life, take away from joy, take away from pleasure, take away from the beauty. So it's important to stop becoming accustomed to that, half alive life and want more.
Woo! Talk to us about how you take your clients through that, where we can find you, what it is, because I just hear it in you. I hear the vibrance. I look at the background. I'm like, what women? There are women who don't like pink, but what
Yeah.
women wouldn't want whatever their color is, their space where they can create their cozy, right? So what is it that you do, Kaya? What is it that you do that helps those outline the program for us?
Yeah, sure. So I have two programs now. If you guys want to be interested, just literally send me a DM on Epic Love Expert on Instagram or Facebook. And I have two programs now. One is a mastermind. It's called Epic Love Mastermind. And it's like weekly group coaching, a beautiful supportive community. And it helps single men and women understand what healthy love looks like, sounds like, feels like. And it's just a powerful way to learn how to lower your tolerance for pain of unacceptable behavior in others and to increase your tolerance of pain where big things don't scare you and learning how to love yourself doesn't scare you and walking away from abusive relationships, even though that means you're going to feel a sense of abandonment. Doesn't scare you as much as staying in them. So I have my Epic Love Mastermind, and then I also have Epic Love Blueprint, which is for very successful women. So 6, 7, 8 figure women who've really learned how to scale in business, but not necessarily in love. So either they're single and their careers are totally successful, but they haven't found how to be feminine and safe in a relationship. And I help them get there, or they're post divorce. So super successful. The money is not an issue, but the relationships, that love, that femininity, that vulnerability that is attracting the right partner hasn't been the smoothest journey. And I help them then get their journey all smoothed out to attract their true and safe love.
That's awesome. One of the things I want to point listeners to is Chaya talks about in the previous podcast, she talks about femininity receiving masculinity. So if you want a more in-depth there, and then you also have a podcast, yes?
Yes, we are just restarting it all. And it's called Love in a Cup. And we're going to be restarting it on all the platforms and bringing in more episodes. So you can stay tuned to my channels for that. And I just started a new YouTube channel, also Epic Love Expert. So you can subscribe to that. I'm going to be starting to drip a lot of super cool videos there. And yeah, like, subscribe, all those beautiful things. But most importantly, if any of this resonated with you, don't be afraid to go into that little pain point and actually send me or Tanya a DM. Like, send me that DM, send me that thing. You know what? I heard you and I'm a little nervous to contact you because, but hey, what's up? Because so many times, Tanya, when we want to heal, the devil shows up and says, don't do it. You're not ready. You're too old. You're too young. You're not ready. It's going to be too much money. It's going to be too much time. It's going to be too much this. And so the devil always creates resistance before opportunity for transformation. So I always just give everyone that little awareness, because no one just wants to go to therapy, but when everything's going great, when everything's super painful and like life feels like you can't go on, then you take your time and money and do it. But why wait till the pain hits such a high level? Like, if you're hearing this from God to you, from the grace of Tanya for having us all come together, send that DM. Let your moment be now.
Absolutely. And if you know that you've had a childhood base or you've had a marital base or something like that, where you don't really understand what love is, if somebody said to you, explain, if it was an open mic and they're out on the street and they're saying, what is love to you? And you don't have an answer, that's where Chaya can really help you build your answer. And it's not her answer, it's not Susie's answer or John's answer, it's your answer on what that really looks like and how you're going to say, okay, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. Chaya's given you some great opportunity there, and thank you so much for joining me again. We're probably going to do this again because you just keep bringing just tons of wisdom. And I want to tell the listeners that she is such a joy to be with. She's a very grounded person, which makes this really enjoyable. So if you send her a DM, she's going to be real grounded and respond to you. And it's still always your choice.
Yes.
What do you want to do? So fear, false evidence appearing real. Shouldn't be any fear. Hop out, do that. Get on the Epic Love channels, look at her YouTubes, see what she's got to offer, because you can change what's been going on in your life. You are not stuck. So Chaya, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate this second run, and we'll have you on again.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Tanya, for being here. Thank you for all of your listeners. And of course, to God to bring us all together as we are meant to heal and have epic love lives on this earth.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, Let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.